The dancing and step-up revolution is even hotter than the first three. Joining me now are some of the stars of the film, Kathryn McCormick, Ryan Guzman, and Stephen Twitch Boss. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Just to get started, you guys are newcomers to this series, but you guys have this great introductory sort of dance scene where you guys can be real playful, and then you sort of get into a groove. How much, not to draw an inappropriate parallel, how much of was the experience of making the movie a little bit like that, where you guys had to sort of get acclimated to what was required of you when you were making the movie?
She wasn't shaking her hips as much as she was in the movie when we first met, so.
No, it was nice because when we first got to the film, we did about a month of training. So we went and we learned all of the flash mobs that we were going to do, and in that we got to become really comfortable with the mob, with each other, with the cast and the crew, so that kind of helped.
But actually, the first time we actually met was kind of my initiation to learning dance, and I had a week prior to actually going out to Miami and learning all the dancing. And she tagged along, and I was actually really timid to dance with her because, I mean, there's this star of a dancer. I'm kind of stuck between stars and dancers right now, to be honest. But yeah, she pound it, yeah.
Just kidding.
But there was quite a few times where I'd have to touch her on the stomach or something like that, and I was like, should I do it? And she finally just said, you know, get in there already. Stop being a little girl and go after it. So.
I was really hesitant. I was like, in dance, there's no personal space. So whatever you got to do to catch me, just be there.
Yeah.
Sure, sure. Well, now you were in Step Up 3.
Yes.
You know, how much were you able to sort of be there to maybe sort of help introduce them, or just knowing what the sort of environment was like already, you know, bringing newcomers into sort of this world?
Well, I mean, it's just that. It's a newcomers, but into a new world, though. So it was its own experience, to be quite honest, because Step Up 3D was, the way it was, I guess, synonymous was just we were on set with friends making a movie, you know what I mean? So it's just that first like week of introduction is really all we needed. I felt like after the first 2 or 3 rehearsals, we were good, you know, making inside jokes. Ryan would come to session with us or practice at the hotel and things like that. So, I mean, all it took was a couple of days and everybody was good, you know, because everybody was down for the cause and everybody's super cool. No egos at all. It was great.
Yeah.
Ryan, talk a little bit more about sort of making that transition. Now, you were an MMA fighter, but prior to this, I guess for the dancing that was required for this, how did it require you to use your physicality in a different way, maybe than you had already been trained?
It's definitely different from fighting to dancing, but you know your body with fighting. So that's what I came into, you know, doing Step Up and just kind of keeping myself open-minded, I guess. But the best thing about it was the choreographers, and Jamal Sims, Don Draco Johnson, Chuck Maldonado, and we had Chris Scott, Travis Wall. Yeah, they all knew what I was capable of, and they kind of just mixed and matched their moves with what my body could do. And also having so much talent to pull from, you know, whether it be Twitch. I was sessioning with all them, you know, doing freestyle sessions with Tie-Dye's Marvelous Twitch. It's weird when I'm talking about you third person when he's right there. But yeah, that's why I kind of learned so quick from, is just from them, you know. So it just became like a family.
Now, Kathryn, your character in the movie primarily seems to have more of a formal dance background, and what's great about the Step Up movies is they incorporate so many different styles of dance. Was there one that either you were not familiar with, or that you were especially interested to learn about as you were sort of incorporating, you know, interpretive dance? I mean, there's like gymnastics, there's all these other kinds of things that are being integrated into these routines.
I definitely felt the most comfortable with the technical side of it in Travis's choreography, but the cool part is that going into this film, I feel like a lot of the dancers had worked with each other prior, like Twitch and I had done So You Think before, and Chris Scott is on So You Think You Dance, Jamal Sims, Travis Wall, you know, so I feel like I've had a little bit of a taste of their choreography before, so nothing felt extremely foreign or new, but I loved getting to do more of the hip hop that was a little bit more like tutting style, like Chris Scott, because I've never been put in a position to really do that, and to be around people where that is how they dance professionally. I think it made me have to step up my game a little bit more. So I loved that, and we also did a little bit of salsa, which was actually really fun, and nobody knew how. Like, we didn't have a choreographer there, so we ended up just learning the moves from the background dancers who were there.
The Latin background.
Yeah, so it was a really fun experience seconds just to kind of get to know them and just do it kind of on the spot.
Sure,
So.
sure. Well, one of the things that one of the real strengths of the movie, I feel like, is that you do really get a sense of character and story from the dance sequences. They're not just sort of these set pieces that interrupt the plot. You know, for you guys, particularly having been on something like So You Think You Can Dance, do you feel like this was sort of a pretty easy transition into that, or do you have to think, and you as well, do you have to think when you're dealing with choreography about like what this says about my character or what I'm doing to drive the story forward when you're doing it, or do you really still have to sort of just focus on what I'm doing from one movement to the next?
Well, I think, I mean, with any area of artistry, there's always intent behind it. So, you know, from this movie being different from 3D, it wasn't about battling. So, seriously, each piece did have its own intent, whether it was just to cause a ruckus, to get more YouTube views, to then, you know, disrupt and make more of a big statement, to interrupt the corporation, things like that. So everything had its own intent. And the choreographers, I think, were very, very clear. And Scott Spear, the director, was very clear about where we were going with each one. So to making sure it was just not just another dance, you know what I mean? So everybody was clear about what we were pushing forward, the message we were pushing forward.
And I feel like everybody fell into their roles perfectly, you know. We all became who we were supposed to be for the movie. And it translated when we started dancing. So he's totally right. In every flash mob, there was a different kind of feeling and vibe to it. And we just matched that with whatever we're trying to say during that time. So, like I said, big credit out to, you know, the choreographers, because they knew exactly what they wanted to portray, and they did it.
I think the environment and the choreography, the movement, and the relationship that the mob had, you know, as a family, it kind of spoke for itself. So it was just really being present in the moment and doing it.
Gotcha. Well, thank you guys so much for coming into
Yeah.
the studio. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
You can buy Step Up Revolution on DVD and Blu-ray on November 27th. And for all the latest news in Hollywood, head to celebuzz.com. Which I made up.